Hi, this is Paul Gorman. I'm going to be talking to you today about the incredible invention and engineering of 3D printing and how it relates to sustainable and affordable housing. For starters, let's talk about what 3D printing is and how it works. 3D printing is also known as additive manufacturing, and this is the process of using an additive or a filament to render a physical three-dimensional output of a CAD design, computer-aided design software. So I like to make the association of a hot glue gun here, whereas the hot glue stick is the filament or additive and the hot glue gun is the printer. As we all know, when you push the hot glue stick through the hot glue gun, the stickness it becomes no longer solid and becomes an amiable material that you can shape and form and mold. And then as the glue cools, it holds the form that you shaped it to. 3D printing works in a very similar manner, except obviously this is a much more simplistic explanation. So using computer coding, the software communicates with the printer and tells it exactly where to move and how much of that filament to expel, and it typically moves in a stepping manner to create the shape of the model that it's trying to recreate. So the concept of 3D printing was actually originally proposed back in the 1950s. It wasn't patented until the 70s, and then there actually still wasn't a working, tangible model until the 80s. Obviously, with the limitations of resources and technology, things were not nearly what they are today. But as technology has advanced and material science has matured, there are several different methods and materials and printers that are accessible today for fabrication and printing on the market. So CAD software or 3D scanning are options for creating what's called a model. And the model is what you see as a representation in your software of what you are going to be printing. You can also use photogrammetry software, which takes a two-dimensional photo and then the software makes some calculations to determine the dimensions based on a two-dimensional photo to a three-dimensional replica. So moving on from there, here is an example of a three-dimensional printer. This is a low-end consumer-level printer where the orange spool at the top is the filament or the additive, the framework around the orange rectangle being the printer itself, and then the orange rectangular box being the output, that is the model. Now let's talk about the different types of materials used in 3D printing. You can pretty much use a very wide variety of materials depending on the type of printer that you have, obviously, and what your output is trying to be. The most common, though, being polymers or polymer blend. So essentially, polymers are just a large form molecule connected in repetitive chains. They're seen in everything from plastic bottles to DNA. What's really great about polymers is that they've got a lot of characteristics that play well with 3D printing. One of the main ones being that they are viscoelastic. So during decomposition, they become very viscous and very elastic. So as the polymers are being heated up through the 3D printer, they hold together through that viscosity, and then they're able to be formed with the elasticity. And then as they cool, they reform, and polymers in general are known to be very tough and durable. So, moving on from the most common one, there are obviously plenty of other ones, being metal, ceramic. You can even 3D print food, concrete, which we'll touch on later, and geopolymers as well during our discussion of construction. Here's an example or several examples of polymers in large form. Now let's talk about what is sustainability regarding housing. So sustainability in general people are familiar with, but sustainability regarding housing really focuses on the reusing, retrofitting, or using supplemental building materials without sacrificing existing or wasting existing environmental resources. So 3D printers obviously can be used to recreate your favorite pair of sunglasses or to print a small scale action figure of yourself. But there are much greater humanitarian capabilities of 3D printing. For instance, you can use it to print food for the purpose of making it more efficient for storage or more efficient for shipping methods. Prosthetics and organ fabrications are being 3D printed nowadays. And with this, the incredible accuracy and customization available through 3D printing, they're really making leaps and bounds there. But what we're going to focus on is how 3D printing is being used to advance sustainable and affordable housing efforts. So now that we understand what sustainability in relation to housing is, let's talk about what some of those standards are. And the World Commission, the United Nations World Commission actually says that the three fundamental components of sustainable development is environmental protection, economic growth, and social equity. So 3D printing has advanced sustainable housing in so many ways. For instance, several companies already have created 3D printers that are and have printed homes that people can actually live in. So there's lots of benefits to 3D printing versus traditional building methods, and there's lots of engineering that goes into it. So whether it's the civil engineer who helped you design the codes to make sure that the house is stable and safe, or the mechanical and electrical engineers who helped design the printer to print the home using the concrete method, the concrete additive. All in all, there are many disciplines invested in using 3D printing to create sustainable and affordable housing. So, as the printers move through, in general, we have noticed that there are several similarities amongst all of the companies that have created 3D printing for homes. In general, they're all using some type of concrete mixture, and it's printing in a flat stacked pattern, which is very similar to how traditional 3D printers print just a regular polymer model. The homes are also printed with cross-sectional supports between the shell of the walls for additional strength and support. And then the spaces between those cross-sectional supports are there to allow for insulation. Hence, these homes tend to be highly efficient regarding heating and cooling. So, in addition to being highly efficient, they actually are, because of the 3D printing being so accurate and reliable, construction has minimal waste. So therefore, it's much more efficient and friendly to the environment. And so with minimal waste and reduced labor costs, obviously it's going to be cheaper to build. And these 3D printed homes are extremely, extremely cost effective. And being cost effective makes them more accessible to more people. And actually, they can be printed and erected in as little as 24 hours, which is incredible. And as the technology continues to advance, they have modular designs which allow them to grow from typically just building smaller units of 800 square feet or less to now some technology is being used to test possibly building large-scale municipal buildings in Dubai. So what does the future of 3D printing look like, and how is it going to help? So obviously we talked about affordability, which is going to make accessibility to good, reliable homes for so many people, but also it's going to help during recovery efforts after natural disasters, being able to put up buildings and homes quickly for people. Obviously there's sustainability. By using these methods, we're able to reduce our impact on the environment, and philanthropy. 3D printing allows us to help remote villages, low-income and impoverished areas, and low-resource areas have access to reliable, proper homes and lodging. So thank you for your time. And this is how I believe 3D printing can help create a better world that is more resource conscious.